So when media is controlled by vested interest, how can it control the vested interest in government? The social stock exchange has been created for mobilizing funds through stock exchange. Zero coupon bond, let's say this. How developing countries are ecologically, let's say, you will bring certain aspect of makeshift content here and there, prismatic society, authoritarian regimes, centralization. In that case, let's say civil societies have not been promoted. Voluntary organizations have become tool for sensitization of governmental agencies. It is a direct question. No. Sensitization of governmental agency means, let's say, making people aware about government agencies and helping people to exercise control on those governmental agencies. It can be related to Lokpal, it can be related to any administration you can consider like this awareness creation. It is a direct question. Now, it is related to policy making also. Let's see, how far do you agree with the view that growing influence of media comes in the way of agenda setting by the government? Agenda setting we have not talked, it is public policy related question. Right, this. But how far do you agree that the view that growing influence of media comes in the way of agenda setting? Agenda setting is related to policy you can consider. It is saying that whether media is becoming a barrier in agenda setting. This. Yes, to some extent media is becoming barrier because media has resulted into so many, let's say that different types of views. So when it's so many different types of views, many a time mobilizing people against government, like say CA protest. The CA protest resulted into delay in CA implementation. Farmers protest, it resulted into again farm bills getting cancelled. This. So somehow agenda setting is related to policy decision of the government, that you trigger something for policy decision. So to some extent you will recognize, but then although later on you will tell that it should not be seen something coming on the way, rather it should be seen more as a policy discourse. This. And policy discourse and democracy is more known by dissent rather than consensus. So that way you will have to write on this. Civil society performs a key role in defending people against the state and market, and is asserting the democratic will to influence the state. This. So that was the question asked, let's say. How it, let's say, keep defending people against the state. Any example? Yes. Yes. So that is how it demands specific examples. One against state, electoral bond wala you can talk, ADR you can talk, and Coca-Cola case or let's say soft drinks and water plant and etc. case you can talk, or Niyamgiri hill area, or let's say that Aravali's etc. as market that can be talked. So this. This. Then when the media is controlled by, this is how UPSC को सब पता है. So when media is controlled by vested interest, how can it control the vested interest in government? No, a slap, indirect, soft way. How can the media become more responsible and impartial? It is a very open question that what we are saying. So when the media is controlled by vested interest, who are vested interests? Corporate sector, cross-holding. What is cross-holding? You can have holding in several channels, but there should be limitation. You cannot have holding in more than 3 channels, 4 channels. Why there is no capping? How a corporate house can own 30 channels and 40 channels? This is called cross-holding. Right. Cross-holding result into dominance of one house. You know that 2 houses dominate. और साउथ इंडिया में मैंने सुना है कि 40-30 चैनल owned by one corporate house. This. So largely let's say कि few corporate houses are running media, and then let's say that कि control vested interest in the government. How it can let's say control the vested interest in the government? Now, the corporate houses control media, and then corporate houses have vested interest in government. Nexus, crony capitalism. So when there is a nexus crony capitalism, so you can tell if you are writing today, that let's say there is SEBI and Hindenburg exposure, and SEBI and Madhvi Buch case, and then etc. Let's say that. So whether mainstream media has brought that news, right? Does it, let's say that, show, talk on that and builds pressure on government so that there should be independent investigation, inquiry? Not at all. That news will not come. Anyhow, that is how, so you should say that yes, the vested interest, that is how it is needed to bring control, etc., you can talk. Then civil society supplements and complements the state, however its capacity and role depend upon the will of the state. This is how it is. So one day someone was asking how it is. This question makes clear. Its role and capacity depends on the will of the state. Yes, unless state wills, let's say that, so you cannot have civil society organization, because their regulation, their creation, their empowerment, all these things depend on the state. Yes. If state wants to empower, it can facilitate. This is how recent wala issues you can write. And then you can show that how state is also promoting the Darpad portal, and through that it is trying to bring transparency. This, and you will find that government has created one civil society, a stock market for civil society. क्या नाम है? Social stock exchange. This, the government has created social stock exchange. मतलब पॉजिटिव ही बात करोगे थोड़े से, नहीं कि कब सब बिल्कुल नेगेटिव लिखना है, right? It depends कि how recent times you know that कि 20,000 civil society organization not given license, etc. how it affects, right? But at the same time, let's say the Darpad portal government has created to promote, bring transparency. You can also tell that 1.7 lakh are registered on this Darpad portal. You can also tell that this social stock exchange government has created. The social stock exchange has been created for mobilizing funds through stock exchange. Zero coupon bond, let's say this. Zero coupon bond, zero liability. The government has allowed social stock exchange, and this will, let's say, result into mobilizing funds. Basically, it has been done for mobilization of funds, let's say. This you can read in economic survey, it is given. बस एटलीस्ट उसका कटिंग रख लेना, बाद में पढ़ लेना. Right. It has given good content on social stock exchange. I have skipped because I will teach in that extra class when we'll take there, here I will not teach. Extra class मतलब कि कुछ topics तो है जो post NPM models etc. Yes. Yes. Selectively showing the news. Selectively, this to selective facts, let's say that. To just you want to show something to society like this. Deliberately you try to selectively show information. This media, the fourth state in the chain, examine a statement in the context of governmental accountability. Simple. Yes, pros, cons, both you have to write. Get it? This? Okay, it is not right. This last question. So still there are questions. So it is pros and cons you write about this, isn't it? This policy agenda, this is how it. Again, it is a public policy question. Discuss role of interest group, agenda setting. We'll talk in case of public policy, right? In theory, civil society organizations promote cooperation between people and public self, but in practice, their activities restrict the promotion of government programs. Right? How civil society organizations, let's say that, create impediment. What you will write? Right, Narmada Batao Andolan, that you can write, protest related to this Sardar Sarovar Dam. That policy paralysis, you can say that. Protest against nuclear power plants. The protest against nuclear power plants, so that halted nuclear power plant, especially in Maharashtra, one new power plant was to be brought. But this is how, let's say that there was protest in Maharashtra, so that aspect can be considered. CA protest and then let's say delay in execution of CA. Farm bills and let's say that also will find that. There can be several examples to write on the other side, but again let's say you should talk that how democracy, discourse, all these things are part of this. And the last is interaction between state civil society has hitherto been largely neglected, especially in developing countries. Right, interaction between. So how it has been? It is related to context of developing countries. आपको कोई और experience है नहीं तो आप ऐसे ही general लिखोगे, right? Develop the day we told about the developing countries, कि how developing countries are ecologically, let's say, so you will bring certain aspect of makeshift content here and there, prismatic society, authoritarian regimes, centralization. In that case, let's say civil societies have not been promoted. Means the way you have interaction of civil society organization in Western society which has civic culture, the civic culture brings it greater interface, and in case of let's say parochial culture, subject culture, there is less interface between state and civil society. This, even they are suppressed, their voices are also suppressed. However, now in governance paradigm thereafter, there has been increase in that interface. The governance paradigm and how there is consultation. Let's say in India also will find the civil society organization, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The Sustainable Development Goals and those civil society organization role will find. Similarly, let's say you will find that this called 12 5-year plan, 11 5-year plan in our country, let's say they were formulated by consultation of also civil society organization. Even Swachh Bharat mission implementation success also has been due to one factor called civil society organization. You will talk in now there is growing interaction you can find, but since traditionally they have subject and parochial culture, so there was less interface. That way it can be attempted. That is how paper 1 they ask. Paper 1, so you can see paper 1 type of question like this, which is more related to, although some questions can be indicating Indian orientation, some questions, but still let's say they have a generic nature between the state, this and that. That is how questions will be asked. Right? This. So we will finish here.